I'd say this contextualization is happening in every country right now. It's about context and making sure the gospel is understandable in a certain people group or a culture or a subgroup, that what we're saying and what they receive is actually matching. And our mission for these 23 years has been to say, Japanese, God loves you, He's close to you, we want to present Him to you. This is not a dreary and drab thing to do. This is exciting.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Rodcast, Innovative Missions with Pastor Rod and team. I'm Monty and this is Pastor Rod.
Hey, how are ya?
Doing good, and very excited for today's episode because we're talking about something that we love to do here at Lifehouse, which is contextualization. Ooh. Yes, we're talking about contextualization and reaching the lost today. And so, I thought it would be good to start us off by defining what is contextualization. What does it mean?
Contextualization, yeah, it's one of those big words. It's about context and making sure the gospel is understandable in a certain people group or a culture or a subgroup, that what we're saying and what they receive is actually matching. There's a connection. So it's a big word for something that we do all the time. It's communication, good communication, but understanding culture and how do we relate to that culture.
That's great. It's communicating to a culture, right?
Yeah. Successfully, yeah.
Yes, successfully.
The whole thing of communication is what I intended is what they receive. That communication theory happens with contextualization.
Yes, that's very good. And so, why is it so important for us here in Japan? We have other campuses in other countries as well. Why is contextualization, I'm going to struggle this whole episode, contextualization, why is that important for us?
Well, we're here to reach people, to share the good news, and to share it in a way that Japanese people can actually say, aha, that's what it is. I think I'd like that. So that's the result. That's the fruitfulness that I think God wants us to have in any culture, is that people go, aha, that's what this is about. And so in Japan, it's such a different culture than Australia or America. So it's on us. It's not on them. Yeah. It's on us to be able to not bend truth or not change truth, but make truth understandable using pictures, metaphors, songs, drama, whatever it is, using some form, usually artistic or being wordsmiths, so that they go, aha, we get it in our culture as well.
So some might say, well, what was wrong with the way that we did it in Australia or someone coming from any other country? Why can't we just copy-paste what we did in this country and do the same thing over here in this country?
I'd like to do something we call reverse contextualization, which is where, okay, let's say people go to our country and they do things differently and they expect us to be the same. It's not going to work, right? So if you reverse the situation, you think, well, hang on, you're in our country, you're in our nation, you're in our context. Yeah. Why don't you try and understand us? So I just think you have to, often you do a reverse concept because not one culture is the right culture. The only right culture is what we call the biblical culture, which is what we read in the Bible about love and joy and peace and the good news of Jesus. That's biblical culture, forgiveness and giving, and all those things are biblical culture, which must trump or be over local culture. So I think if people say, we do this in my church at home, or we do that in Australia or whatever, they've got to think again that you're not there. We're in a new culture, and God has commissioned us to share good news. And sometimes people with that attitude can actually share bad news unintentionally, not from a bad heart, but because they're just too strongly thinking that, and local people either misunderstand, which is bad, or actually could be a bad intention. Does that make sense? Like, it's about how do people receive it? It's all about. So if we're in Japan, it's all on us to change,
right,
and to share in a way. And it's a big deal. This is a really big issue, and it's a reason why a lot of missions either success or fail, or innovate or don't innovate. This is the issue.
I think that's a really important point, that missions success or fail dependent on the level of contextualization that they have.
I think so. I really do. And I think that Jesus calls us to be fruitful. In John 15, Jesus said, I've called you to be fruitful. So there's no use saying, well, I wasn't successful here. We have to regroup, refine, feedback, do a loop to try again until there is the receiver culture says, aha, that's what you're trying to say. I get it now.
And that's great because this podcast is called Innovative Missions. And I think a big part of what at least our story is of coming to Japan is was we tried to innovate with the contextualization. We've tried different things. We've tried to change things. Like, there's a few things like you mentioned, that biblical culture, that doesn't change. But the way that we do a lot of things, it definitely has changed over the years. So maybe let's get into a few of those examples. Like, what are some things that we might do differently than, say, you would have done back in Australia?
Well, one of the things that's fruitful here is being a little bit goofy and on the streets, and people love it.
Okay.
So if we're there saying, hello, how are you? Instead of people saying, what are you doing? They're actually saying, oh, hello, who are you? So we found out in day one, that all we needed to do was give Japanese permission to have fun with us. And they did. So if you did that in Australia, people would say, what are you trying to do? Maybe they like it there too. But I think here it works just so beautifully that the Japanese people see that as tremendously positive. Up front, day one, we're able to make friendships. That's pretty amazing discovery.
That's great. And yeah, because for us, we're based in Asia. We are here physically sitting in Tokyo, Japan. So Japan is a different culture than Australia or some others in the West. So in Japan, we found out maybe goofiness is something that's helpful to, attract Japanese people, to say hello, to develop new relationships. But what are some things like church-wise that we do intentionally with the purpose of trying to reach Japanese people?
I think we try to be goofy. We don't goof off on Jesus or worship. It's not about those very important aspects, but all the parts about us is goofy. So it doesn't matter if we're I don't know, we're making a fool of ourselves, or it's actually a bit biblical. Paul says, if anyone's going to be goofy, let it be me. So if we're mature or secure enough, that's a great word, secure enough to just be a little bit out there and goofy, church can be a little bit goofy. And I think we've discovered that church needs to be joyful, fun, loud, friendship, not somber. So then we talk about the opposite is what we're not. We're not somber and sad and too reflective, because Japanese will either not like it or they'll actually go to sleep. I remember in the first year we were in Japan, I said to my pastors, it does matter how we preach, but if the Japanese fall asleep while we preach, we failed. There was actually a failure line, and it was keeping them awake long enough to hear the good news of Jesus Christ. So it's sort of a different than... But I don't think it's that different than maybe Gen Z in the world right now. I think maybe the world culture has shifted to be a little bit more Japanese even.
Explain that. What do you mean by that? What are your observations?
Well, if that's true, way back then, 2002, that we discovered that church needed to be fun and goofy on us, not on Jesus. Let me clarify again. Not making fun of the good news. But if it's on us and they come in and have a good time and stay awake and laugh and enjoy the drama of it, they're probably going to retain more. And I think that is actually very similar to the culture of Jesus' day. Now, I'm not saying Jesus was goofy, although he did have some humor that we have recorded. A
bit cheeky sometimes.
And some puns and some, very cheeky with the way he asked questions. But way back in Jesus' day, they obviously had no technology, but it was all about being able to have your voice heard in an environment and keeping people interested. He told stories. We call them parables. He told news events. He asked questions. Jesus asked 300 questions. He had a communication style that was actually what people in their day would have called Socratic, or from Socrates, from the Greek philosophers 400 years earlier. There was a style of rhetoric and question asking that Jesus was using, and then the New Testament people like Peter were using. And so what I'm saying is there was a communication style that's, I think, is quite similar with the way Gen Z is saying, we want to talk, we want to dialogue, we want to ask questions, we want to ask you about that. Can we? And so there's more of an interactive, give me a metaphor, a picture of that, or how's that appear in a song or a poem, or here in Japan in a haiku, which is a very short poem. It's like, give it to us in a communication style for our generation. And I think the world is shifting to be almost like a New Testament concept generation.
Very cool. So let's talk about some of those practical things that we do. Just picking up on some of the things you mentioned. We love telling stories in our preaching. We love using Bible stories. Something I think that's really cool that we implement is using, it's like AI generated, but that we make images for the Bible stories to help our congregations to come along with us as we unpack a Bible story. I find that very fun. I think our congregations, they lean in when they see these nice images.
Yeah.
They look like manga or something like that. And I thought it's actually interesting. I saw there was a comment on our Google reviews. You know, you can like put reviews on Google, and someone gave us 1 star, and the reason was they took a photo of our manga, how we tell stories, and I was like, this person missed it, missed the plot. Because I find a lot of our Japanese love it.
Yeah.
And not just Japanese.
Again, this whole thing of manga and anime is very, very big. I think you're an anime lover.
I do.
And you were saying that in America, good anime, as in nice and moral anime, is very big in America right now because it's all about friendship and the crisis in a friendship and then the resolution, and they're good stories. And I think that storytelling with pictures is the way of this generation. And I think if people call that childish, which is probably what they thought it was, why do we need pictures? When the majority, 99% of our audience are all going, thank you for those pictures. You know, it's like you made it clearer or more understandable. I think that's what we're going with.
Yeah.
As the same with our music style, we go very much for a pop style, which is Asian style.
Yep.
And a lot of our big friends in Asia, big churches in Asia are doing their own music. And they're all calling it Asian style.
Yeah.
You know, our friends there in Jakarta, Praise Church in Jakarta. In Jakarta, that makes sense.
Yes.
Praise Community Church. Sydney and his team there, they do their whole music. And I said to him, what's your goal? And he said, we have to make it an Asian style praise and an Asian style worship. And it's, oh, wow, that's the same as what we're trying to do. So it's not criticizing others, but it's saying if there is a music style that Japanese would easily ease into or think this is really nice or this is our style, it just makes it simpler. This brings up another thing about, like, we want to bring the good news, which is like vertical, but a lot of this communication stuff is actually horizontal. It's actually heart to heart, human to human, to be able to make people eased into hearing something vertical.
Right.
That this love and joy you're feeling is actually from God. So I think people that miss those sort of things don't understand the mission, don't understand culture, and you know, they'll need to find another church that suits them, which there's many, and we no problem with that. But we know our mission.
Yeah.
And our mission for these 23 years has been to say, Japanese, God loves you, He's close to you, we want to present Him to you. And so the service must be a little bit goofy and fun and visual, dramatic, artistic, and meaningful, relevant, so that there's a chance that they will actually say, this is good, I'll come again. So mission, this is a big thing. Mission drives our culture.
Yep. And mission drives the contextualization as well.
It does.
Because I think normally if we get any pushback, it's people from a different culture, a different contextualization, and they come here and they ask, why do you do this? Or why don't you do that?
Yeah.
And it generally, the answer will come down to, like, this has been a intentional decision that we have made in order that we may reach some. What's that scripture?
Yeah, it's a great scripture. And the Apostle Paul, who is from Tarsus, was trained in Jerusalem. He's in a new area, which is Greece. And he had incredible fruitfulness in Greece. But he got to Corinth. And Corinth was a city, it was the city of the area. It was, I think, the second, third biggest city of the Roman Empire. Wow. It was where people wanted to go and retire and send their money. It was huge. I was just there a few weeks ago, actually, in Corinth. It was pretty cool. But it was in that culture, the church grew dramatically, and Paul had to deal with a lot of contextualization. It sounds like he got some pushback too, because he makes a big deal of this thing that it says here in 1 Corinthians 9, I'm going to read it here, verse 22. When I am with those who are weak, I share their weakness, for I want to bring the weak to Christ. Yes, I try to find common ground with everyone. That's contextualization, simplicity. I try to find common ground with everyone, doing everything I can to save some. I do everything to spread the good news and share in the blessings, participate in the results, the fruitfulness of people coming to Christ, getting healed, marriages getting better. Paul is saying, I want to participate in that. Therefore, I'm willing to really find common ground to share good news.
Do you think, for example, because we're here in Japan, we're here in Asia, we're contextualizing a lot here, do you feel that maybe that's been part of the reason why missions traditionally speaking, have not been as successful is because, sure, they have the vertical, they have the heart, they have the desire to reach out, but maybe there was a disconnect with the horizontal, a disconnect with how do I relate to these people in a different culture, with a different mindset, with a different upbringing. Do you feel like this is maybe part of the reason?
Yeah, I really do. I think it's on us to communicate. We can't not communicate well and blame them.
Right.
And that, I come from a sales background. If a salesman ever said to his boss, "Hey, he didn't buy our products, and I didn't explain it very well to him," the boss would say, "Well, you got to do better. Learn some skills,
right,
and go back and try again." One of the things that we have done recently, which is a brand new New Testament in the Japanese language called the JERV. It's now on YouVersion, New Testament, and the Old Testament's on there as well. So anybody, YouVersion, JERV, and this is actually a bilingual New Testament. And what we've done here is we've made the language of Japanese into high school English.
Yeah, very important. High school Japanese.
That's the one.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We've got high school English. High school Japanese. Why did we choose that level? Because we realized that actually we could have actually done middle school as well. And adults would have read that without thinking it's too simplistic. But high school just probably bridged everything for us. And so we put it into those terms. And so when people read it, and we've had lots of testimonies of Japanese people saying, "I understand this better, I get that better." That's on us. So Bible translation is just one of the many things that we've done to be able to increase communication. Why are people not fruitful in it? I think it's a matter of going back to the drawing board. Because we probably failed in 100 ways too on our journey, and came back to the drawing board or our feedback group, which included Japanese at all times. Even those who are not yet believers, we asked opinions about this or that, or what do you think of this word, or what do you think of that? So we were always curious, always discovering, and even to this day, I'm asking our Japanese and foreign youth, what happened there? What did they think? I'm looking for this feedback loop that I'm learning, I'm growing, just like Paul, that I might win some, and I want to share in the blessings.
I love that, because that's why we're here. That's why anyone goes anywhere, is that they may reach some, they may win some. And so I think another one of our more maybe spicy contextualizations is what we do with communion. Now, I know that before you guys also lived in Thailand, and you guys didn't use the little grape juice and rice cracker that comes in the nice little set packet. This is probably one of the ones in Japan that we get the most pushback from foreigners, because we use rice cracker and we use green tea for our communion. So maybe this is a good one that really kind of accentuates our belief in contextualization. Maybe walk us through like your thought process or why we do it this way.
When we were in Thailand, we lived there 4 years. That's where you were born, actually, in
there you
Bangkok, and a very international family. We were in a village area planting churches and seeing great miracles, seeing people come to Jesus. And then this is another thing, we had anime way back then, books of anime of stories of Jesus, and they were really good.
In Thailand?
In Thailand.
Wow.
So once again, we were using art forms and communication form. But we realized that way out in the villages, there's no way in the world they're going to get grape juice or Ribena. It's just probably not even in Thailand. Probably the top supermarkets in Bangkok, you might be able to buy it, or today you'd be able to buy it online, I guess.
Yeah, Amazon or something.
But the poor aren't going to do that because that's expensive. And so we realized that communion must be accessible. I think that's the key word. It's got to be something. Right. And let's say we as the missionaries stayed there for those years and we bought it in and we gave it to them. What's going to happen when we leave? They would probably say, we can't do communion anymore because that was the form we learned. And if you don't have those, then you can't have communion. This is the way people think, that if something's not accessible and it doesn't have continuity, it doesn't continue or go on to another generation. So we realized we had to use what was in the corner store and accessible and affordable. So we've got all these big words, what's accessible, what's affordable, what's meaningful. And we used Coca-Cola and sticky rice.
Hey.
And Viv and I loved it. And the locals, they read in the Bible that Jesus used wine and bread, probably flatbread.
Yeah.
There's no way in the world they're going to have those either.
No.
So the biblical culture, in that sense, could not be put into that village. And it can't be used here in Japan either, because people under 18 can't take alcohol for a start. So you couldn't use wine. And flatbread, where do you get that from here in Japan? So in Thailand, it was just very simple to use Coca-Cola, affordable, every corner store, and then say, this is how we have communion. But it's the thing of meaning. The meaning stays the same no matter what emblem or thing we use. The stuff reminds us that Jesus' blood and Jesus' body is for us, and we're celebrating the good news of Jesus. So when we came to Japan, we looked around and thought, well, Japanese don't really like that Ribena either here.
Right.
They say it tastes like medicine or smells like medicine. I agree, actually. I've never liked it. So that's hard to get. Probably they can afford it here in Japan, but it just wasn't a nice taste.
No.
And then bread, well, we could have got bread every morning, but rice crackers is pretty close, right? Pretty close. So
Right.
in Thailand, we did that. In Australia, we did that. Here in Japan, let's try Japanese tea and rice crackers, and it was just a hit. Japanese loved it. So when foreigners come, we always say, let's take the Japanese tea and the rice cracker, because we're in Japan, and if Jesus was here, he'd love to take these things with you. And as soon as we say that, you can watch the Japanese just relax, go, oh, okay, so God's not foreign.
Yeah.
That's really important.
That's important.
God's not foreign. And for the foreigners who are going, what am I doing with grape juice? I could see on their face, what am I doing with grape juice and rice cracker?
Tea and rice cracker.
Tea and rice cracker. I'm glad you're here to correct me.
Gotcha.
As soon as they hear the explanation, if Jesus was in Japan, he would do this, they actually relax as well.
Yeah.
And afterwards, I've had so many foreigners come to me and say, that was fun. That was really a fun experience. Wow, I love the way you do that. So
That's great.
But not everyone would agree.
Nope.
But when we have that, we say, well, we didn't come here for them. And it doesn't mean we don't love them. We're not rejecting them. We can't change our mission for the ones or the twos. So that's what we do.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that phrase, if Jesus was here, what would he do? Like you said, it puts everyone, or most people, at ease, because they're like, okay, this is contextualization. This is us being innovative to reach some that they might know Christ as well.
And if ever we left, they would keep doing it, because it's not dependent on the missionary or the foreigner or the pastor. They could do. We say, you could do it in your home with friends at Starbucks. You could just get something and give thanks to Jesus.
So how do you then help empower other leaders to have the confidence to contextualize? Because again, we want to keep the main things, the vertical things, the same. The what, the why, that doesn't change. But the how do you encourage other leaders? We can experiment with the how.
It's a great question. I just think we have to have a secure team that we can ask questions. We have to have the locals asking questions or answering questions. Even this last week, I asked some of our Japanese pastors, we were talking about some theology stuff. I said, what do you think about that? What do Japanese think about that? I'm asking questions. They didn't have the answers, but I said, let's talk again on this. Let's actually come back and regroup. So I think as long as we have that curious heart, based on the Word of God, we're going to be right. We're going to be okay.
Amazing. So have you ever felt like there's been too much pushback with the decisions you make, the contextualizations that you've decided, or is it more so just like some healthy, maybe robust discussions?
Well, I think it makes us think. Why are they saying that? Is that valid in this culture? And I think we're not saying people's opinions are of no value, but in the end, we have to say, well, we've been sent here to communicate. And those views are from a foreigner. I'm from Australia. So let's say it's an Australian. That makes it safe. An Australian says something that I think it's just not going to work. It doesn't affect me whatsoever. I'm not thinking, yeah, we should do that because we do it in Australia. I've never thought that. I've always thought we're here for the locals. So I just think it's common sense, team, feedback, keeping very much and I was talking to our good friend Pastor Talo last week from New Hope. I said, what's really important in your church, Talo? He said that it's a flat leadership style. So the newest believer or non-Christian can talk to the pastor and feel relaxed and feel, and I think it's really big in any culture, but here in Japan, it's a big one. To walk in and feel this incredible sense of family. So we have to guard that. I think the shepherds have to watch over the culture, that it doesn't become weird either in a Japanese or a foreign context. It becomes a biblical context. But I think here's the key. This is fun. I see it like a video game. We get an old platform one, like when I was younger, and you were a little boy, and
Tetris.
The platform one. You just got to find the gems, beat the boss, go to the next level. I think that's the way I see contextualization.
Yeah,
Curious, discovery, find some gems, beat the boss, beat the devil, and go to the next level.
That's probably the best way you could sum up contextualization. Find the gems, beat the boss, go to the next level.
And if you're single, get the princess on the way.
Hey, I like that. And so lastly, what are some things that we could do to encourage others, maybe church leaders, church planters, considering different areas that to go and bring the gospel into, or even different demographics? You mentioned Gen Z. Like maybe someone's thinking, how do I reach that person? How do I contextualize to my audience, to these people that I'm trying to reach? So what would your final piece of advice be to a leader that's wanting to contextualize?
I'd say this contextualization is happening in every country right now. I think there is a movement afoot, is that a word? And my good friends in America, some of their churches are contextualizing. They're saying things like, we're reaching multicultural, we're reaching this small group. I think it's happening.
Yeah.
I think that's encouraging, that this is not just missions, this is actually church.
That's a great point.
This is church. I've got we could talk about some of my friends in Hawaii, some of the things they do with music and arts, and in Australia with their style. I just think we need to think this is exciting. This is my answer to your question. This is not a dreary and drab thing to do. This is exciting. We're going to find discovery. We're going to find communication. We're going to have fruit. We're going to participate in the blessings, as Paul says.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for listening in to another great episode of the Rodcast, talking about contextualization with innovative missions. Thank you, Pastor Rod, for a great time.
Hi, thank you for joining us today. We hope this episode was interesting and helpful to you. If it was, you can let us know by rating, reviewing, sharing, and commenting on the episode. That'll help us know what you're enjoying and what topics we should focus on in the future. If you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to get these episodes as soon as they drop every month. And we'll see you in the next episode of the Rodcast.